Welcome back to Your Health Radio and Television program. I'm Dr. David Morwood. I am a board-certified plastic surgeon, and I'm so pleased you could join us for our next segment. My two wonderful guests, not just one, but two, Lilly Hills and Karen Hudson, authors. You two give lectures and hold seminars, and I want to talk about your latest book, and I want to hear about what's happening with the two of you. Lilly Hills and Karen Hudson, welcome back to Your Health.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're delighted to be here.
So tell me what's happening, like the big news. I heard this splash about a feminine manifesta.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we have a new book out, and the Feminine Manifesta is essentially about how we women, because we're hard on ourselves, it not only impacts how we feel about ourselves, our self-esteem, but it can also impact our health, pretty dramatically too.
so tell me about this idea of how women are hard on themselves. Do you think they're more hard on themselves than men, or the same? Don't you think it's human nature that some people will be hard on themselves, or it's just women, do you think?
Well, we seem to think that we see it most commonly in women because of the conversations that we have with women and what we're witness. Women tend to focus on those things that we don't like about ourselves. And often we have messages in our heads that have been running for years and years. I'm not thin enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. And this comes through to, this comes out in how we behave. And so we're suggesting when you're lighter on yourself, everything shifts within.
See, what I think is fascinating is I think the stereotype is that men are more competitive than women. But I'm not sure that that's true. I think women compete among themselves. And I think sometimes in really intense ways.
It's absolutely true, which is a shame because all the studies show, there was a recent Stanford study that shows that women's relationship with other women, it's incredibly important to our mental health and our physical health. When we get together with other women, it can help us to lower our heart rate and our blood pressure, our cholesterol levels. What was the other one?
Those are the biggies.
Those are and our blood pressure. So bonding with each other is important, but what's happening is because we're hard on ourselves in terms of what we think we look like, we end up competing and comparing ourselves to other women, which just disempowers us individually, and then collectively as a gender, we women have brought ourselves down in many ways because of our self-denigration.
Well, I'm just amazed with this topic, and of course, as you know, I'm fans of the both of you. I think this is terrific. So I want to talk about more about that, but can we hold up the book or talk about the book a little bit? So can we see that? I think maybe if I let me try. It's called Feminine Manifesta, Lilly Hills and Karen Hudson. Can we see that? I think we can see that, okay, if I balance it like that. Okay, so how'd you get the idea to do this?
Well, Lilly and I have known each other since the first day of high school. As a matter of fact, there's a picture of us in the back that proves that. And we have had a long friendship that has, we've had different roads that we've traveled, but we connected back a few years back. We started to really investigate what made for a happy life. Lilly claimed that I was the happiest married gal she knew, and I know that she was the happiest single gal that I knew. And we really started to investigate, well, what brings consistent happiness? So we started to put all our ideas down, and we're so inspired by what we came up with. We said, well, let's write a book, but we didn't have the patience really to sit down and do it. We just said, let's offer it in seminars. So we started doing seminars with women a few years back.
We said, you know, how hard could it be?
How hard could it be to write a book?
But it's writing a book is much harder than we thought, and getting women to take time out exclusively for themselves is also incredibly difficult. We're so busy. Our society, we say that our society is as influential to us as is a third parent. Because the truth is, it's telling us what we should be doing, what we should look like, instead of recognizing that everyone has their individual beauty. You can't compare any woman to another woman. We're like flowers.
True.
And to compare ourselves to each other is an act of lack of self-respect for ourselves. So what we say in the book is, once we back off on that, it'll bring forward the best of who we are, and the world is in desperate need of the best of all of us right now.
Well, that's very fascinating to me. And so I just opened up the book, and I see on the cover, inside the cover, discover how to use your feminine side to lighten up on yourself. Wow. Create more connected relationships with those you love. Who doesn't want that? Reduce the stress in your life.
It's a biggie.
Move beyond the behaviors and self-judgments that are keeping you down. Gain access to the present moment. I want to hear more about that. Deepen your friendships. Oh, this is so sweet. Be the most compassionate, patient, wise, and loving woman you can possibly be. Contribute to a woman's movement that makes the world a better place for all humankind. Now, before we go on and come back to gain access to the present moment, you know, I'm so self-centered, of course. What about the guys? Like, what about guys and men being good people and being stress-free or
Well, this time around we're talking to the ladies because it's going to positively impact the guys. We're crazy about guys. You know, our divine dudes, we're looking out for them.
Divine dudes. You
Yeah.
see, now I have been striving to become a divine dude since I met the two of you. I'm trying to find the key to how
It's
to...
already happened, David. I
Oh,
can
you
tell you
really-
from my
True.
personal
You see
experience
that?
with
It's
you.
true.
I'm going to tell my producers we're going to bring these women back. This is unbelievable. So,
But it really does. When a woman, when we're suggesting that when a woman connects with her feminine side, which is our gentle, nurturing, patient, tolerant side of who we are, when she offers those aspects to herself, that makes her more passionate, more compassionate, more patient, more tolerant and kind to those around her. And so our husbands and partners benefit, our kids benefit, our co-workers. When a woman is in a loving relationship with herself, she exudes that love. She gives out of abundance. And so we're suggesting for the whole world will benefit when a woman starts being kinder to herself.
So the men are the beneficiaries, and essentially what we also believe is that when we women are showing up in our strongest selves, the side of ourselves we like the best anyway, the men will be inspired on entirely new levels to step into their greatest selves, to face their fears about looking overly feminine. They'll balance their masculine and feminine sides in order to show up in equilibrium.
wow, this is just fascinating to me. I could go on for hours. But I want to talk about this one point for a little bit if we could. What do you mean by gain access to the present moment? What's that mean?
Well, if you think about how our society is these days, it is the energy is so frenetic. We tend to be operating at such a busy pace. You know, if we're working or if we're mothers or we have, you know, committees that we're a part of, we're typically going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So we're not really even aware of some of the thoughts that are in our head. We're just operating almost on autopilot, getting it done. And that's very much our masculine side, our active side, our productive side. That's the masculine part of who we are. And what we suggest in the book is that when we connect with our feminine side, whereas the masculine is the doing, the feminine is the being. And when you can just take a few moments to yourself and simply just be for a moment and breathe, we suggest silence and breathing will bring you in touch with the present moment and help us to recognize where we might be out of balance and where our thoughts might be. We can't hear it if we're running around and driving and in traffic and running from one appointment to another and checking things off our list. I mean, both of us have been addicted to our masculine at different times in our life because we get rewarded for it, you know, for being productive and for getting the job done. And we're just suggesting, let's bring a balance to that masculine. Let's bring our feminine, which is very much naturally part of who we women are.
And part of it is also recognizing that the nature of the mind is very much about looking to the future or looking at the past, feeling regret over the past or worrying about some aspect of the future. Being in the present moment is really a skill that most of us haven't cultivated. And if part of the reason people hesitate to sit down and just be with themselves is they recognize the mind is constantly going. It's a never-ending stream of thoughts. And unless you learn to master your mind and slow it down, you can't be in the present moment. And most of us want more of those beautiful moments where we feel connected with something larger than ourselves, feel connected with our loved ones, feel in full joy.
That reminds me of a book that someone just gave me called The Power of Now. And
Perfect.
a couple authors have written about that concept, be here now.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what you're talking about.
Brilliant.
Well, that's fascinating to me. So again, so back to the book. So how did you, what are the mechanics of actually writing the book? Did the two of you get together, brainstorm, and start taking notes with each other, or sit at a computer, or what
It
did
was a
you
long
do?
process.
It was a
and
long
We had a
process.
lot of fun too. I mean, we have to say, along the way, we had a belly laugh every single day as we were writing this book.
That's what made it a successful day. We had to have a belly laugh every day. But Lily we'd bring our laptop, and we'd usually go to beautiful places where we could look out on a beautiful scene, and we would just sit and just outload and just keep it going. And when something would come up, and let's say it this way, and the other one would not agree with it, we would just be with it for a minute, and we would always choose the highest way to say it. You know, what is the best way to say it? And so there was no competition or, oh, that was mine, or this. It sort of all became ours, which, you know, is really the universe's anyway.
So how long did it take you to put the book together?
David, longer than we even want to talk about. No.
You don't want to know, David. No. About 3 years.
About 3 years.
You've been
3 years
working on
solid.
this book for 3
Yeah.
years. Well, of course, I want to, we've got a few more minutes, but I want to talk about how people can get the book if they want a copy, right? If they want to read it. Is it on, can they go to the internet? Do they have to go to the bookstore?
It is in local bookstores as of this week. And the best way right now to get it is at our website, which is afemininemanifesta.com.
Well, I love that title. So, afemininemanifesta.com. So they can go right to the website.
Right to the
and-
website. And there's all kinds of fun things on there. They'll get a kick out of the website.
Great. So let's return to this idea about friendships and feeling centered and feeling balanced actually being good for one's health.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Now, Lily, you mentioned that that's been studied.
Absolutely.
And you know, I'm just so Western trained, Ivy League. I mean, I really want to see the scientific data. You know that,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So you're telling me that it's actually been studied that there's a relationship between relaxation and lowering stress and feeling balanced positively affecting one's health. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, think of it in these terms. If we've got a challenge that we're not talking about with one of our girlfriends, it can sit and just hang out in our body, creating stress, right? It's in either our conscious mind, where we're thinking about it actively, or it's just hanging out in our subconscious mind, where it's playing a role in, oh my gosh, don't forget about that, that's something to worry about, and so forth. So when we talk with a girlfriend about it, we release oxytocin in our bloodstream, and that helps us to relax and to become more centered and we talk through ways to handle individual issues. And at that point, that brings us down, that brings our blood pressure down, that brings our tension down. It's a chance to express ourselves. And we women are more likely to do it than men, which is why within our friendships, guys usually don't talk as much, and this is of course a generality because some do, but they won't tend to speak with their friends as much about individual issues as women do. So if they did, the same would happen for them. So
Well,
here's
Lily,
a great opportunity.
You know, when I listen to you talk about that, it's almost like I can feel my own blood pressure going down just a little
Very
bit.
soothing.
My pulse is slowing just a little bit. It's so exciting to be here on the set with the two of you, but I can feel my pulse going down just a little bit as you talk about that.
Good.
So now, is it arranged by chapters? Are there certain topics that women can, like, can you read one chapter if you're specifically interested in one thing?
Yeah.
Or do you have to kind of start from the beginning and go to the end?
Well, we take them through the process of sort of reintroducing what the feminine is. You know, there's not a lot of talk in our culture about the importance of our feminine, the feminine aspect of who we are. And then we take them through a very simple process, a 3-step process, to developing a healthier relationship with themselves. And we say in the book that it's very simple, however, it's not always easy to remember. And that's part of the reason we wrote the book. The women that attended our seminars that we shared the same information with would leave just high as kites. This is great. You know, I have a whole new outlook on my relationship with my husband and so forth. And then a week or two would pass and we would get an email. I've fallen back into my same old patterns. How can I be reminded? Really, the book is the reminder to just stay focused on these 3 aspects of your relationship with yourself, and the joy will come.
Well, I've got a couple specific questions, okay? Like say a woman comes to your seminar and they say that they have a hard time talking about their problems, and they feel that they were raised and they weren't supposed to talk about their problems. They were always supposed to put on a happy face, right? I mean, we hear that.
Definitely.
Sometimes
Yeah.
kids grow up with that kind of teaching, that put on a happy face and you're not supposed to talk about the problems. But you're intimating, or actually you're telling us that it's probably good to talk about your problems and get things out in the open.
Sure.
So what's the first step? Let's say someone comes to your seminar and says, you know, I have a really difficult time talking about problems, but I wish that I could talk to somebody. Do they need a therapist? Do they need a friend? Do they need a combination? Do they start by reading the book? Like, what do you advise them in your seminar?
Well, one of the first stages would be to recognize that it can't, until it's revealed, it can't be healed. We're only as sick as our secrets. So if we're holding things in and we're ashamed of them, it's like a lead weight that we carry within us. And whether it's a friend or a therapist or a coach or a group, some type of a 12-step program, it's very important that all of us recognize that there's no shame in anything. There's no shame in any challenge that you faced. And you have to have the courage to move beyond the fears that's holding you back, because otherwise you could spend your whole life held back by your secret. So find someone that you feel that you trust, find someone that you have confidence in, and share it with them. And a therapist is always a great idea, always.
Well, Lily, that one phrase you used is worth the price of admission alone. It can't be healed until it's revealed. Is that what you said?
That's right.
Isn't that amazing? I might put that in my surgical practice office,
Please
plastic
do.
surgical office. It can't be healed if it's not revealed.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so you encourage women to verbalize.
Sure. And women, I have to say, the women that come to our seminars are very open and they're excited about being in a group. Women do when we're together in a forum like that. We feel safer to share.
True.
And you, in our seminars, we make sure that there is, in advance, we say everything that's spoken of in this space is held in the strictest of confidence. But first, once they share their issue, then it's out on the table, and there's nothing to hold them back from examining how to move beyond their issue, right? It's very powerful and empowering to share your story with someone else, because from that stage you can say, all right, so this has been my story so far. What do I want the rest of my story to look like? Because we are all the masters of our destiny. You know, we can paint our own future. And so once we look at our past to reveal and examine how it's impacted our present, then we can define our future with greater skill.
Wow. Well, I mean, you're selling me on the idea already. This is terrific. Maybe I should try to sneak into one of your seminars.
Come on by.
But we've got a few minutes. I want to ask you about one other, I think, difficult problem. What about the people, you know, I think men can be this way too. Maybe women have more of a tendency, but what about people who are so hard on themselves? Like they feel like they can't do anything right, or whatever they do, it's never enough. It's never good enough.
Yeah, we talk about in the book how there's two major influences in that arena. Our family influence, you know, for how we grew up and what we might have been told. We had a woman in our seminar that said she was told something about her body in 5th grade that she held on to for 50 years. Till she realized, wait, that's not true. But as children, we're so impressionable. We believe what our mother and father, or you know, aunts, uncles, whomever are the adults in our lives tell us. So that's a huge part of it. The second piece is the media. You know, the media is incredibly influential. I think Lily mentioned earlier, it's like a third parent, in that so many of our kids are watching TV and they're being told, this is what's beautiful. This is what looks good. This is what is valuable in our society if you're doing these things and looking this way. So subconsciously, we have these thoughts that are developed. Wow, that's not me. I don't look like that. I'm not doing that. I must not be good enough. So it's sort of an overall feeling of I'm not good enough in whatever arena happens to be out there.
So to move beyond it, what you need to do is you need to become aware of the thoughts that are creating the feeling of I'm not good enough. And those are usually lying in our subconscious mind, right? So our feelings tell us when our thoughts are negative about ourselves or about someone else. So as soon as you start feeling bad, examine the thought that took you there and correct it. If you said something rude to a friend, you'd want to apologize and shift it around. So it's about, the turnaround is, if I think that way about myself, I'm going to bring myself down. If I think well of myself, or I look for what's good about me, then I bring myself up. And from there, I'm a happier person. The best of who I am comes forward.
So it's really retraining the mind.
Exactly.
And that's why it's a practice, because those grooves, those neuropaths have been deeply set all those years. And so we're giving another option, you know, we're giving another idea. Hey, how about if you look at all of the amazing parts of who you are and your gifts and your beauty? So,
It's a smarter way to live, and it's a kinder way to live.
Well, Karen and Lily, I tell you, I just want to hang out with the two of you
Anytime,
and
David.
keep
Anytime.
talking. They can film it, they can put it on the radio, whatever they want. So in the very few seconds we have left, I want to say one thing. So here's a picture of Lily and Karen in 1978, and here's the honest truth, and my audience knows I'm a plastic surgeon. The two of you are far better looking in the years past. You have gotten better, both of you. You're far
thank
better
you.
looking. Awesome.
cuter than we were at 13, that's sweet.
Far better looking.
Even more importantly, we're much kinder than we've
Yes.
ever been.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's again tell our audience how they can get the book. It's called A Feminine Manifesta. Lily Hills and Karen Hudson, and where do they get it? One more time.
At afemininemanifesta.com.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much, Lily Hills and
Thank
Karen
you, David,
Hudson.
so much
Thank you,
for having
David.
us.
A pleasure as usual.
Always
Always
a
a pleasure.
pleasure.
I'm Dr. David Morwood. I'm a plastic surgeon, board certified, and this is Your Health, the radio and television program. We're going to take a very brief pause for a very good cause. We're coming right back.